What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Maurice, and I'm here with my beautiful wife,
Nasa.
We know we have a very diverse audience out there, but today we want to give a video specifically for those of you that are thinking about going tiny either now or in the future, and of course anybody else that wants to watch as well.
But today we're going to do things a little bit different.
Yeah, quite a bit different. So instead of us just sitting here and both going through the 5 points,
I'm going to give you my top 5 things in terms of where to start.
And I'm going to give you my top 5 in terms of where I think you should start.
That way you get both perspectives.
And you can decide for yourself which one you think is the best.
So I'm going to go ahead and send Marik outside so that our answers don't influence each other.
Because the first thing you have to learn about a tiny house is there's really no such thing as going in the other room.
So the first thing you have to do when you're getting ready to buy a tiny house is research. You gotta find who you're going to go with. So get on Google and do some research. Look for tiny house companies around your area and make sure they have a quality build. Make sure they have reasonable prices. And I mean, if that's something that's important to you, make sure that they have financing because some of them don't offer financing.
So the very first thing I would say to do if you're looking to actually buy a tiny house is to plan an exit strategy. Now I know that may sound a little funny because like, wait, if you're gonna go tiny, why would you be trying to like figure out your outs and your exit strategy, so to speak? But to me, we did this and here's the reason why. No matter how many YouTube videos you watch, no matter how many things you read online or Facebook groups or different things that you get involved with learning about the tiny house lifestyle in general, which I definitely think you should do as much of that as possible. No matter how much of that you do, you're still not going to really fully understand the experience and know whether or not you like it until you actually take the plunge and do it. So having an exit strategy in place allows you to keep the peace of mind and thinking that if I hate this, if this doesn't work out well, if something changes dramatically in my life that I need to go a completely different direction and leave this completely behind, you want to have a plan in place so that you don't lose out financially. We knew specifically, okay, if we stay in the house for 1 year, we need to sell it for X amount of dollars in order to break even on our costs. We really were already breaking even regardless because we went tiny at a time that we otherwise would have been renting. And so it was all kind of a win in the first place, just the fact that we were getting into ownership. But we also had specific plans around 1 year we need to make this, 2 years we need to make that, 3 years we need to make this. At 4 years, the house is completely paid off and it's a net zero at the end of it. So that's what I mean when I say exit strategy. There's a lot of different ways, but you need to have something in place that is not a total financial flop if you change your mind or something drastically changes in your life.
So the second thing that you should do is go check out the company that you've decided to go with. So once you do your research, you'll find one that you love, go check them out, ask your initial questions, see the builds for yourself if they have some for you to see, get all those initial questions out the way, and then you're on to step number 3.
The second point I want to bring up is that you need to decide how much you want to spend. And the reason I say this is super important is because tiny homes can range greatly depending on how fancy you get, what kind of finishes, whether it's luxury or not, different types of gadgets, electronics, all of these different things. Sometimes you can see tiny houses get well over $80,000. Generally speaking, if you're going to go with a professional builder, it's somewhere in between the range of $40,000 and $70,000, roughly speaking. The difference in there just is how you decide to finish it and the details you put into it and the length of the trailer in and of itself. Because if you don't go in with a solid set budget as to your top dollar, it's very easy to blow the cost out of the water. And then on the flip side, if you're building it yourself, the same goes for materials. If you have a set and specific price, then you know, okay, I need to get it all in this price. So it's going to force you to map out and plan out all of your lumber, all of your tools, all of your supplies. And from the few people that we know and other people that whose stories we've heard that have built their own homes, they say it always takes twice as long as you're going to expect, and it always costs twice as much as as you would expect. And so you kind of want to go into it with that mindset and mentality as well.
Now, depending on whether or not this is really important to you, this might be step number 1 for you, but for me it's number 3 because it's not all that important to me, but it's still important. Find some place for you to park your house. It would be horrible for you to find someone, decide on them, they have all the things you need, and then when your house is done being built, you don't have a place to put it. So if a community is important to you, that's going to take a lot of research because there are not a lot of them in city limits. So that's going to be number 1. And also you want to make sure that like you're okay with living in RV parks if that's something that you would like to do. We did it for 2 years and we liked it, so we were okay with it. Marik might say differently, but I was okay with it. Or even if you want to live in somebody's backyard.
You're
just gonna need to make sure that you solidify a place for you to park.
The third thing I was gonna put, which I kind of dabbled into this already in point number 2, is that you need to decide if you're gonna self-build it or if you're gonna go with professional builders. There's a lot of advantages to going with professional builders. There's so many different things that you're just not gonna know if you're building it yourself. But if you've had a ton of expertise, I would say go ahead and go for the self-build because you'll be able to actually do it faster. If you have no clue what you're trying to do and you're doing it completely from YouTube, it could take you 2 or 3 years to build it. And I'm speaking from experience of people that I actually know that have done it. And so you have to also factor in your time and your labor into that cost. You may build it yourself for $20,000 or $25,000, but if you'd have paid yourself the same salary or labor that you'd have paid professional builders to do it, is your cost now in the hundreds of thousands of dollars? And if that's true, then you might be better off just going with a builder from the get-go, saving yourself all the time and the headache of trying to do something that you really don't know what you're doing.
The fourth thing that I would suggest you do is secure financing.
Point number 4 I would say is to secure financing.
Get on the phone with some banks, figure out how to get a personal loan or some type of loan to help you with the house.
It really doesn't make sense to make a big plan and have all these things drawn out if you're ultimately not going to get approved for the financing that you need in order to make it happen. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to securing financing is no doesn't always mean no. We actually went through Lightstream, which is a division of SunTrust Bank, and when we first applied, we actually got denied. They sent us a rejection letter despite the fact that my credit and my wife's credit was both over 700. And they just didn't understand exactly what we were trying to do. They saw it as like a luxury purchase, like an RV or buying a helicopter or a plane or a boat or something like that. And they thought we were trying to buy a toy when we technically hadn't even had like a regular home. We then explained to them that no, this was what we were trying to do and all of our financial goals associated with it. They asked for some documentation to prove up what we were talking about. We sent them the documentation and they actually overturned the rejection letter and then approved us for the loan. It's kind of crazy because I never thought anything like that could happen, but no doesn't always mean no. Just make sure your lender understands exactly what your goals are. If you got the cash to pay for it outright, you know me, you know my wife, pay cash for it, get that thing done and paid off and be debt free.
The fifth and final thing that I would tell you to do is to downsize. It is going to be so difficult. It will be so difficult for you to try to downsize once you're in your tiny house. So try to get rid of as many things as possible before you move into your tiny house.
The fifth and final thing I would say, find the right company. Now, there are a lot of different companies and they offer a lot of different things. Some only do container homes, some do container homes and tiny homes. Some have a certain building style with reclaimed materials only. Some do all brand new materials. You gotta get in there and really understand, who is this builder? How do they build their homes? How much am I gonna be able to put in my input versus be directed and guided by them? Do I wanna put in my own input or do I want them to lead and me to kind of just make adjustments? You really need to ask all of those nitty-gritty questions because your experience is going to come out 10 times better if you feel like you know and understand your builders. Us, for example, we're very hands-on people. We wanted to know what was happening. We wanted to have our input in every aspect of the design. And we wanted to be able to go back and forth and visit along the way while the home was being built. So we picked a builder that was close to us, only about 2.5 hours away. But those are all decisions you're gonna have to make. And take a look at their portfolio of the other homes that they've done. Look at the reviews, see what other people have said about them. What are some of the things that people, regretted about their decision to go with that builder? Look at their design and see how do they design their homes. Most builders, they're all unique and they can do different types of builds. But if you really look at company by company by company, most of them have a certain style or a certain look to their homes. Like they all come out looking like a dollhouse, or they all have like that ancient look to them, or they all have that real modern and sleek, just based on the materials that they're used to using and the certain design elements that they do, maybe with the roof line or maybe with the layout. You want to look and pay attention to those things, because if you don't think that you want that style of home, you may be dodging a big bullet by just looking closer at that in the first place. So there you have it, the top 5 things we think you should focus on first when getting started with purchasing your first tiny house. We hope that was helpful to you guys. You think you gave them some good knowledge, some good advice?
I think I gave y'all some pretty good knowledge. But if you think we missed something that other people should know, please leave it down in the comments below. Also, make sure to smash the like button and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, because what are you waiting for? Hit that bell button so that you can know exactly when we upload. It's all free, y'all. It don't cost you a dime, just your time. Thanks for watching. We love y'all.
Peace.